Good morning. I am the Reverend Maggie Lovins, and I am very pleased to be here with you today. I would like to invite you into your own personal space to feel the expansiveness of the room that you are in, to feel the earth gently holding you, all the while the sky beckons your spirit higher and higher. To feel the warmth and love of the community that has gathered here today, even if we can only be together virtually. I welcome you all and ask that you open your hearts and your minds to today's message on change. So, can you feel it? That cool crispness in the air, the need for a jacket, all the convertibles driving by with their tops up, and the remaining leaves changing their colors quickly and rapidly dropping. Yes, seasonal change is truly upon us. And you know, it's been said for centuries that the only true constant in human life is change. Now, from my perspective, this does seem to be the case. The only constant in my life has been change. From a student to a teacher and back to a student. From a child to an adult. From a shero to a zero. From a wife to a widow. Even from a quasi-conservative Republican to a very liberal, and then from a pessimistic lost soul to an eternal seeker with ultimate optimism. My life, and I'm pretty sure your life, has been nothing but change. I mean, all living things are constantly changing. Even you right there out in Zoom land or on the internet. If we look right down to the molecular level, all of our atoms are vibrating and dancing up and down and all around to an unknown beat that's played by an unseen drummer. But it's not just this. Our cells are growing and reproducing and adapting, and at the end of their cycle, they're dying and recycling themselves. But the point is that our cells are always in flux. They're always changing to make up this glorious thing that we call a human body. You know, Charles Darwin was quoted as saying that it is not actually the strongest of the species that will survive, nor is it the most intelligent of a species that will survive. It is the most adaptable to change that has the greatest survivability. So once we accept that we are beings of change, once that we can wrap our minds around this concept, then I think that we can shed some of the heaviness, the fear, and the anxiety that comes along with change, and we can replace that with healthy power that's inherently ours, and we can harness that energy for positive forward momentum that has unlimited potential. And now we know from numerous behavioral and medical studies that a change of any kind, good or bad, causes stress. Maybe it's a new baby, or a new house, a new job. Maybe it's a divorce, death of somebody that we loved so much. Potentially a once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic. All of these things cause us great amount of stress. But I believe most of those are adaptive issues, meaning that once we can adapt to the changes that these events have caused in our lives, then we can help the stress level to shorten, to diminish. Now, that might not be true in the case of a baby for 18 years or so, but I'm pretty sure you get my idea. Whether this change shocks you or elates you, it will give you the opportunity to see life through new lenses. I myself have recently had the opportunity to see myself through new lenses. It was like taking a peek at myself from the outside in while I was doing a couple of weeks of deep discernment and self-reflection. And I came up with a very scary conclusion that I'd like to share with you. Are you ready? I need to change. Yep. For myself, also for my spiritual self, but also for the people that I love and that I relate to. But mostly, right now, I need to change because the world needs me to change. It's like one of the responsive readings in the back of our hymnal that has us repeating this line over and over again that's always going through my mind. When I change, the world changes. Think about that. It's like the butterfly effect and the micro and the macro all together. When I change, the world changes. And that's pretty big. So I ask, if change is a constant in our lives, then why does it scare us so? I mean, why does it cause so much fear in relatively fearless people? And why does anxiety sometimes arise to these critical levels when changes are introduced? So, real quick, let's take a straw poll. Everybody who's here this morning, how many of you are anxious about a change going on in your life right now? Yeah. If I could peek into your computers, I think I'd see everybody with a hand up. A change in jobs or location or the way that we do business, change in relationship status. Remember, though, that a change need not be huge to cause a reaction somewhere within us, and that reaction can actually turn into physical symptoms. We can feel pain or mental paralysis or experience true heartbreak. But I believe there are 3 questions that we can ask ourselves when these major changes come around that can help us traverse the waters a little more smoothly. The first question is, what do I have to give up or modify in this change? Second question, what if I or it fails? And the third question, which I believe to be the most important of all of the questions, is where do I fit in or belong in this new change? Because, you know, the old way of doing things, it has assurance of tradition, and it has been tested over many, many years. And we know just what to expect from it, and we know just how to relate to it. And that's even if we don't like it. But the changed way, it has no history, it has no lab tests, it has no provable viability. We have no idea what to expect from it, how to relate to it, or even who we will be or how we will be on the other side of this change. Fear has a best friend. His name is anxiety, and they both breed quickly in what I am calling the known kingdom. And you need not look far for examples of this. They are literally everywhere. Things like whenever a relationship is challenged, or a new mosque is built in the United States. Anxiety reaches critical levels anytime we talk about gun legislation, or maybe when a new infectious disease is found. And I promise you, this happens every single time we vote for a new president. But why exactly do we fear change without knowing how it's actually going to affect us? And I think it's often because society has imprinted upon us that change is not safe, and that it means loss. For too long we have been led to believe that we are ultimately alone. And I believe that it is this feeling of separation or aloneness that is at the root of the greatest of human sufferings. And then we often believe that self-change will lead us to the loss of those that we love and care about, rather than renewing relationships in new order. But I feel we have a cure for this. It's a very basic cure. It's free. And it's offered by our faith of Unitarian Universalism. It is, you are not alone. It's that simple. You are not alone. True growth is in struggle, and struggle is made lesser knowing that others are there with you. And trust me, we are all in this together. Being a covenantal, non-creedal faith means that it is up to us to keep our promises or our covenants. It is up to us to keep our smallest of promises, to just come back to the table and listen, or to hear, I messed up, I'd like to try again. And it's here in our covenanted communities that we should feel safest to explore what a realized self-change may actually look like. Remember, when I change, the world changes. Perhaps, though, we fear change as a precursor to losing control. Control of our jobs or our homes, maybe even our lives or reality itself. But that's the key to this issue, control. It is this false sense of control that we all proclaim that we have over our lives and over our reality that does not allow for us to keep a hold of this sense of power that we had before the change was introduced. Therefore, it leaves us with a feeling of powerlessness. And it is here that fear can be born. You know that serenity prayer that so many hold dear? Love that. I think it's a great place to start discerning what you can and cannot control. But I tend to lean towards this rewritten version, so I'd like to share that with you. It goes like this. Grant me the serenity to know the things I cannot change, the courage to know the one that I can, and the wisdom to know that that one is me. I'm going to say that for you one more time. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to know the one that I can, and the wisdom to know the one is me. Because I believe it's a deep suspicion. I believe this. It's a deep suspicion of mine that we're actually terrified of the responsibility inherently ours in living up to our divine potentials. And it is fear of failure of this change that holds us up. There are many dots along our human history timeline of examples of fear of change that were rooted in the known kingdom. For example, people used to be labeled as heretic or blasphemer just for openly dialoguing that the earth may be round when the known kingdom told everyone that the earth was flat. Or maybe it was coming to terms with the sun being the center of our universe and not us ego-driven human beings here on planet Earth. I mean, could you imagine the stress and the anxiety in a time like that? It must have been through the roof with all the new thoughts and changes in science. But I'd like to remind us that that's a daily pattern that we live with now. Meaning that our chances for fear of change are amplified. And throughout human history, I believe we've killed off some of our inspiration and our creativity just to protect that known kingdom. And I say it need not be so going forward. So let's use water for a metaphor. We can never step into the same river twice, right? I mean, we can never meet the same wave twice at the beach. Water is often thought of as rapid change. We refer to the flow of things or the fluidity of motion. But water is also slow, monotonous change, like the carving of valleys and canyons. But the key here is that it's continuous motion. We take that rolling rapid water and we scoop it up into a vessel, and we see that it conforms to the size and the shape of that vessel. The water is still and clear and reflective. This is now the water's known kingdom. Its flow is now stagnant. Its energy is diminished. And its potential is now limited. Such can happen to the human being who is unable or unwilling to change or adapt to the things that come across life's path. I do not wish this to be my path. I wish for positive, continuous change, unchecked optimism, and wholehearted love. I wish this for you as well. So, at the end of the day, what does all this talk about change really mean anyhow? I mean, we as Americans spend an exorbitant amount of time trying to avoid change and the feelings of fear and anxiety that comes along with it. And we spend too little time focused on learning to live with it, adapt to it, and to utilize its power for positive forward momentum. Embracing change and its associated feelings that ride its coattails can prevent us from being paralyzed by the change or allowing it to wreak havoc in our lives. See the known kingdom for what it currently is, but not as a capital T truth. Accept that what is known is constantly, even rapidly changing, and to stay relevant and purposeful, we must incorporate these changes into our lives. So I say to you, when some of these changes arise in your person and you feel overwhelmed, I invite you first to breathe. And then I invite you to find your faith in whatever higher power you call to. Possibly your faith in the root of humanity. Or maybe it's the faith that you have in yourself. It's like author and poet Victor Hugo said, "Change your opinions, but keep your principles. Change your leaves, but leave your roots intact." See, the key here to tackling change is to have faith in your own resiliency. To remind yourself no one is immune to change and that we are all in this together. And to be honest, if you come along, I'm willing to lead that charge. I wish to conclude today's message with a quote from President Barack Obama, who speaks on change a lot, hope and change. But he says this to us. He says, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or for some other time. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." May it be so. Blessed be. Ashe. Amen. And Namaste.